order. The public.
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay. And I will call to order the public hearing of the Industrial Development Agency of Saratoga County. Please note that for the following reasons, the public hearing is being held telephonically and not in a format that permits for gathering of the public in person at one specific physical location for the following reasons: because of COVID-19, because of the state and federal bans on large meetings or gatherings, and pursuant to Governor Cuomo's executive order 220.1 issued on March the 12th, 2020, suspending open meetings law. The public hearing scheduled for today, June 8th, 2021, is being held by the County of Saratoga County Industrial Development Agency in accordance with the provisions of the Article 18-A of the New York General Municipal Law with respect to the JV Real Estate Venture on behalf of the Saratoga Auto Supply Incorporated. The hearing will be held electronically via conference call instead of a public hearing open for the public to attend. The public has been made aware through legal advertisements and by posting on the agency's website that members of the public may listen to the public hearing. Public comment may also be made during the hearing regarding the project and those benefits which may be granted by the agency to the applicant. Comments may be made by dialing in 1-646-558-8656, entering meeting ID number 817-6328-5497, and using access code 515292#. Comments may also be submitted to the agency in writing or electronically via email to mvalentine, one word, at Saratoga County, New York, one word.gov. Minutes of the public hearing will transcribe and later posted on the agency's website. We've received an application from JV Real Estate Ventures, LLC, a limited liability company in New York State, with a mailing address of 288 Milton Avenue in Ballston Spa, New York. The company has requested that this agency undertake a project consisting of the acquisition of approximately 3 acres parcel of land identified as tax parcel SBL 190.10-1-1, located on Rollins Street in the town of Milton, Saratoga County, New York. The construction on the land of approximately 15,600 square foot facility to be leased by the applicant, JV Real Estate Ventures, and to be occupied by Saratoga Auto Supply Incorporated for the use by the tenant as a motor vehicle parts warehouse and distribution and retail facility. The acquisition and installation of certain machinery and equipment. Together, the equipment and the facility and the land shall be noted as a project facility. The total costs associated with the acquisition, construction, and installation of the project facility is presently estimated to be $3,500,000. The agency is considering whether to undertake the project and finance the project by executing and delivering a mortgage or mortgages to secure a borrowing or borrowing by the company in an aggregate principal amount sufficient to finance all or portion of the cost to acquire, construct, install, and the project facility and the cost of the loan. The principal amount currently estimated to be financed per the applicant is $3,150,000 to be met by both private sector bank financing and financing through the NYBDC Local Development Corporation and assigned to Saratoga National and Trust Company. If the undertaking of the project and execution and delivery of the mortgages are approved by this agency, the project may be granted such exemptions with respect to real property taxes, mortgage recording tax associated with the private bank financing, and state and local sales tax that are applicable to at commercial services facilities as described by the agency's uniform tax exemption policy adopted on March the 11th, 1999, and amended last on October 14th, 2014, subject to the deviation as determined by the agency. The project facility will be acquired, constructed, and installed by the agency and leased or sold by the agency to the applicant pursuant to a project agreement. The applicant and the tenant will be the initial user of the project facility, and the mortgage will be a special obligation of the agency payable solely out of the certain proceeds of the agreement and certain other assets of the agency pledged to the repayment of the loan. I will now ask IDA counsel James Carminucci if proper legal notices was provided for the public hearing in accordance with the regulations.
Yes, Chairman. Notice of the public hearing was published in the Saratogian on May 29th, 2021, and notices were sent to the chief executive officers of the affected taxing jurisdiction.
Thank you, Jim. Agency members present today are Andrea DiDomenico, Philip Klein, Tom Lewis, Mike Mooney, and Kevin Tollison, and myself, Rod Sutton, Chairman. Staff present are Scott Duffy, CEO, Jeff Maney, CFO, IDA counsel James Carminucci, and Michael Valentine, Administrator. Regarding the application, the request for the project was last presented to this agency on May 18, 2021. That application and supporting material have been available for review by any interested parties since received by the staff on May 14, 2021 at the IDA offices at 50 West High Street in Ballston Spa. Since the presentation of the application, are there any additional comments or thoughts from staff or the applicant that need to be provided at this public hearing relative to the application that was previously submitted? Dennis, do you have anything?
No, sir. Mr. Chairman, the application stands as written. There have been no additions or subtractions.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I am therefore going to now open the hearing for any input from the public for the response or comments relative to the application. Do we have any comments? Mike Valentine, did receive anything by email or mail?
No, we had nothing added on, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing that there's no other input on this, is there any other input at this public hearing relative to the application? Seeing none, we'll then close the public hearing. Thank you, folks. I'll now call to order the monthly meeting of the IDA, the June 8th, 2021 monthly meeting. I would like to have the approval of the meeting minutes of April 29th and May 18th of 2021.
Mr. Chairman, that would be the April 29th minutes. I don't have finalized minutes for May 18th yet. It would be
okay. Stand corrected. These would be the minutes for the April 29th meeting.
So moved.
Second. Phil Klein. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. We'll now look at the application for the Saratoga Auto Supply. As presented to us in the last meeting, they're looking for a 5-year pilot with mortgage recording tax abatement of $11,813, sales tax of $121,800, and property abatement tax of $286,315. Any further discussion, any discussion by our board members pursuant to the application that has been submitted to us?
I think it's a good project. And I wish them a lot of luck on the expansion of what they want to do. I think it's very, very good for that part of the county.
Okay, any other comments from our board members? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept this application?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mike Mooney, second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if we've already accepted the application at the last meeting? And I'd like to see if we could amend what you stated to this is to adopt the final resolution as presented by council, which would be resolution number 1491.
I'll make that motion.
Second to the motion,
I'll second it.
Andrea, any further discussion on that resolution 1491? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
Roll
Yeah.
call.
Roll call.
Right,
Roll-
yeah.
Okay, on that resolution, which is number 1491, final resolution for JB Real Estate Ventures, how do you vote, Ms. DiDomenico,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
In favor.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Mooney,
Yes.
Mr. Collison,
Yes.
and Chairman Sutton?
Yes,
I have motion carries 6-0.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Next order of business, the CEO report, the PPE grant applications. Scott?
Okay, hopefully you all got the spreadsheet that I attached this morning as a backup from last night, but there were 4 projects considered, number 127 through 130. There was a total of $33,785.10 that was approved by Mr. Manny and myself, along with the help of Mr. Valentine. And those are up for approval for the board. You have those 4 in front of you, hopefully. So the remaining funds are $32,000 roughly. And total funding so far is still at $750,000. And, I'll leave it up to the board as to how you want to move forward with this program. We did receive 1 additional application yesterday, but they failed to fill in the requested amount of grant money. So we'll address that with a phone call and a conversation with the applicant, but that's where that program stands right now. So for the board, 4 applications, total of a little under $34,000.
Scott, just to confirm, we're looking at Brumley LLC, Saratoga County Agricultural, Stillwater Public Library, and Senior Citizens of Saratoga County.
Yes.
Okay,
And let me just make a correction there. It's the actual sum here is $2,672. So it's a pretty small tranche as far as what we've done in the past.
Could you repeat that, Scott, just I'm writing it?
Okay, it's $2,672.12, Mike.
Okay. What was the other number? Was that the balance?
It was an incorrect calculation. I just saw that it needed to be fixed. So,
Thank you.
yep. Remaining funds though, Mike, $32,077.06.
All right.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
The motion to approve numbers 127 through 130, applications 127 through 130. There's a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
All right, Mike Mooney, thank you. Any further discussion on the applications? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Um,
thank you. The funds we have capped at this point, as we all know, $750,000. And as Scott has indicated, we have $32,000 remaining in the pot for future applications. It seems as if the applications are dwindling, and with governor's announcement yesterday of opening up the state further, this project is probably coming to an end. Is there any thought of further funding the project up further than the $750,000? The understanding that we have is that once the pandemic has been officially ended, I think we have 60 days in which to close off the funding for any type of PPE grants. So is there a need to increase that $750,000, or should we just wait and see how the applications come in month by month?
I think we just wait.
Yeah, I concur. I agree.
Who's that?
Tom,
Tom
Lewis.
This is
That was
Tom. I
Tom.
agree too, because uh, when the purpose of it was, there's a pandemic and businesses shutting down. I want to get things back to normal, and having this, keep going, even though I like the idea that normal is fleeting fast.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, why don't we kill two birds with one stone here? And why don't we go to the end of the month and then end the program at the end?
oh, we could do that. My only thought on the project is that we would cap it at $800,000, see how the applications come in, and that we have a drop dead amount of monies that we would allocate would be to maximum $800,000. And then we would just cancel out the program as soon as the governor declares this as being over. We've got that 60 days. But that's fine. We could do whatever, make a motion, Phil.
I certainly like Phil's idea, end of the month, and then if indeed it goes over the 750, we can up it next month to cover, just the amount it's over, and then
Yeah.
it'll end.
Yep.
I'd like to suggest that we have this run until the end of August to cover the racing season period. So just in case some of those businesses that find themselves with an influx of customers during our racing season and have to install some PPE, that they have this available to them. So maybe through August 31st or whenever Labor Day weekend ends, when the meet ends, pick that as a drop dead date to keep it open until then.
I can go along with that, keeping in the spirit of Saratoga and racing. We could do it till the end of the meet, but
When is, looking at the
you're-
calendar.
You
September 5th, is it?
5th.
Yeah, looking at the calendar, Phil, looks like September 5th, that Sunday is Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, it'd be the 6th. The track ends at 6th on Monday.
Six, right.
Phil, do you want to make an amendment to your motion then? Or,
You might just want to make it clear
Re-
either end of August or
Yeah, I think
statutorily when it has to end.
You're not,
Yeah,
Go ahead, Rob.
for all practical purposes, will be over at the end of August 31st.
Right.
Okay. So August 31st it is.
Okay, make the motion, Phil?
Move that we extend the grants to as a receive date by August 31st, 2021.
Okay, do we have a second to the motion?
second,
Who was that?
Kevin Tallis,
Thank you.
Kevin Tallis is second. Any further discussion?
Can we take this as a roll call, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can.
All right, on this
Roll call.
resolution, which would be number 1493, how do you vote, Ms. Di Domenico?
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
In favor?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Mooney,
Yes.
Mr. Collison?
yes.
Okay, motion carries 6-0.
I'll say yes too, Mike, thanks.
Oh, thank you. You can
Hey,
smile.
Mike.
That was not purposeful, so a little grin would help me out.
There you go.
All right.
Hey, Mike, will you please, in the appropriate location on the website, will you post that final closeout date
Yes.
for this grant program? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, folks. That it was a tremendous program. It was very successful. Thank you for all the hard work Scott and Jeff and Mike put into this and in vetting out all the applicants. Hopefully we'll have a few more applications, but it was a very successful program and it's something we should be proud of. So thank you very much. CFO report, Jeff Maney.
Good morning, folks. All of our, as of May 31st, all of our accounts are up to date, balanced. little under $3 million in total in our account. Going down the balance sheet, if you will, I closed out the Luther Forest a part of the project where we were installing the infrastructure, and that the net amount that we invested in the infrastructure turned out to be about approximately $52,000 was our net financial investment over the years. I should also mention Luther Forest still owes us $400,000 from a note, and the last principal payment on that was received. I was double checking, and it was in 2016. With respect to and we also, by the way, usually bill them for interest once a year for about $2,700. So at some point we'll have to address that issue. We did have a closing, one closing thus far this year. We did have one actually in early June, which will be reflected in next month's financial report. We've expended $411,000 on the grants thus far this year, and one other thing I wanted to mention is just for our records, we are establishing a form where I sign off on the financial reports related to a review of the financial reports of our applicants, so that we have it in the file that we did due diligence with respect to the financial viability of our people requesting benefits. So that it's a formal, a one-page formal sign-off sheet. So that's all I had this month. So
Thank you. Any questions of Jeff at this point?
Thank you, Jeff.
you're welcome.
As far as the principal and interest payment to the IDA from Luther Forest, Jeff, you'll be sending a bill out for the interest. Is that what you've been doing?
Yeah, we haven't really done that, Ron. Usually I'm not sure when the note is actually due, but I guess we'll have to look into that. But we've had an extended the agreement periodically, so I guess we'll have to look into what we need to do there.
It's usually a communication to Teresa, and she's handling that.
So the
in the
interest
past.
payment, the interest payment is on a regular scheduled basis. But then again, without the closeout, I guess that will continue, I guess. So there's a payment that's made based upon the agreement. As Jeff alluded to, the amount that comes in regularly. So I'm not sure what we're looking for here.
We're looking to
Yeah,
get paid
it's
$400,000. It's the
Well,
bottom.
that's what I'm saying, but we don't know when that will happen. So
Understand. Why don't we do this? Jeff, why don't you draft a letter and let them review it with Scott, Mike Valentine, and myself. Draft a letter about the principal and interest that's due the IDA, and I will sign the letter after we review it. And we'll send them, what is basically asking them what their intent is for the coming year. I don't know where they stand right now with the project in Luther Forest at this point. So
Seems like a good plan, Ron.
why don't we do
Yeah,
that?
I agree. Yep.
pretty straightforward. So, okay, I will definitely do that.
Okay, great, thank you. And just go back a little bit of the history. Go ahead, Phil.
I'm just wondering if we had a normal date that we bill them every year. We bill them on a yearly basis for the interest, and what that date might be. Is it the end of the year or some other
No,
date?
I think if memory serves me correctly, I think it comes due like July 1st or
Yeah.
thereabouts. And
Okay.
and I think Tom Rowan, being president of Luther Forest, would always either write us a letter and or appear in person asking for forgiveness and paying interest only.
Sure.
But I think we should be I think we should go on record. The IDA should go on record and saying, okay, this is what the principal and interest will be for, say, whatever that date is, if it's July 1st, 2021.
Yeah.
And put it, just formalize what is was due the,
Sure, I just want to try and be consistent if we could.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's fine, Phil. I think it is July. Normally
Okay.
that's when it takes place.
That works well.
You are
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. IDA Council, Litchfield Holdings, Jim?
That actually closed last week.
Okay, good. And where do we stand with infrastructure? Have they have followed up with their reports for us?
I need to get that letter out to them, basically notifying them that we're terminating them.
Okay. All right. Mike Valentine.
One thing on that Litchfield Holdings closing that Jim had last week on Wednesday, the IDA was generated an administrative fee of $80,108.14. So coming up along with that, we need a motion today to authorize payment to SEDC according to the fee split agreement. And according to that agreement, that amount would be $38,777.04. So I'm looking for a motion from the board just to authorize that payment.
Is this why do we need a special motion for that, Mike?
We don't, but
Out of the ordinary?
I'd like
Is
to
the
keep
fee
record of it
split
in
standard?
I just like to keep record of it in the minutes. We've done it in the past. Okay,
Yeah.
not necessary. It is a contractual agreement. But it helps when you're going back through 10, 12, 14 years of minutes and see a process that happened. That's all.
So moved. This is Tom.
Tom Lewis. moves
I'll
the motion.
second.
Second, Andrea. Any further discussion? If there are none, then roll call vote.
Okay. All right, on that motion, which will be number 1494. How do you vote, Ms. DiDomenico,
Yes,
Mr. Klein,
In favor?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Mooney,
Yes.
Mr. Collison,
Yes.
and Chairman Sutton?
Yes.
And motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Yeah, other one I just wanted to add on is that following our last meeting, we had worked out with PVA Campus 3. We added 14 sub-agents to the list. Usually we would have an agent and a sub-agent would be appointed and filed with tax and finance. And in this case, the company, this is similar to what we did with Global Foundry a number of years ago, that they themselves would become the one that appointing their sub-agents, submitting to me the ST60s and then filing with the state. So we've done the same with this one, just to alert you to that. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Other business, Dennis. Or no?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was asked to put together some information. I sent it out to the staff and board members, showing the process for the program for their first two projects, and then also how it would be affected by a third. That spreadsheet was included with your materials. We started this process in 2016, and it shows their a cumulative amount per on the projects. So they spent 11.5 million coming in, spent another 4 something, and then this one would be 18.7. The multiple value assessments are shown. I have adjusted this to show what the real taxes were by the rates at that of each year. So the last payments made that I can confirm, we'll say that is through September of last year. I know they already paid in January. the county and town tax, but I have not figured that in these numbers. I'm just using the numbers as we know it to be. The town assessor and I had a conversation about how she would assess these buildings going forward once they're built. And she gave me a number of, for the 25,000 square foot building, I'm sorry, for the 50,000 square foot building, $100 per square foot assessment. And for the 125,000 square foot building, it would be $90. She felt that she uses somebody that helps her do that. The commercial work, they hire somebody to do that with her. And she went through a description of diminishing returns after you get so big on a large building. So that's how I came up with the full value assessments to make sure that we were saying if full taxes paid is this, and this is the pilot, then we could really see what the actual savings would be, at least through 2021 tax rates. You can see that when this project started, they actually paid more money than they're paying now by the tax rates that were applied in Malta and the county and the school district. So we are in the, we're just going to be starting the end of the first, 2021 is the end of the full 5-year on phase 1. So at the end of this year, that'll shift into where you're going to start seeing a percentage of the second building come on, of the additions come on, and you see how the pilot assessment changes with that. I'm using, again, the assessment that she put on the building, the 7.3 as the numbers, and that's how we get cranked up to the numbers that you see. It looks like the sales tax and mortgage tax that you had approved in the beginning of each project. They actually, the mortgage tax was just about at the right numbers. Sales tax was not utilized as heavy as we had originally thought. Again, we wanted to make sure we covered that with the 60% of the building costs to make sure that we didn't have any errors with state tax and finance. So I'm not surprised at those numbers. This building, phase 3, as we showed, is a pilot. The request is a 10-year, 5 and 5. The original 5, the first years of that would be at the land value that's already there. That's being taken care of in the original pilots. It is one single pilot. The sooner they get the second building built, the more value they would see on savings from those. So if they don't get that built in the second year, they would save, you would see that assessment could change a little bit due to the when that second building gets done. The thought process here is that they would start the first building the fall, and then as you saw in the application, finish that one next year, start the next one, and then finish that in 2023. It's possible for that to happen. It also is possible that if things go well and they're able to market it as well for other people to utilize that facility, that it could happen sooner. The other thing I want to mention is when we think about these projects, IDA projects starting in January of 2022, any project over $5 million will be required to use prevailing wage by a decision that the legislature and the governor signed. I believe it was last year, if I'm not mistaken. So these projects there will be a change in the cost of them. Our history has been what we've seen when we've priced it, and it has been a little while since we priced it. I will tell you that it's probably been about 3 years. It was about 20% more at that time for prevailing wage, and that was a building around the $5 to $8 million mark that was done in Clifton Park. So I haven't done it recently, but that's the history of it. So we are concerned timing for projects coming in. Now, Jim Carnucci mentioned to me yesterday to the Clifton Park IDA that there's supposed to be a board of people from the state sets up to review these if you're asking for a waiver or something. Jim, do you know who's going to do that? Do you have an idea or not?
Yeah, I know that the board's supposed to be set up. It's supposed to administer this and issue regulations. And I have not even heard that the board is set up. I think there's a provision that the board could modify or postpone some of this in light of economic conditions. But nothing to date has happened as far as I know.
And Jim,
And-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that if this ends up not being changed when the board's put together, it would affect any project that hasn't closed by the end of the year. So even if we induce something, but they don't actually we don't close and bestow benefits, it's possible even that type of project could be subject to this. A little bit unclear about that.
Okay, so it could be, and I'm just asking, what's your thought process when you said closing? They could close with the IDA, start a project, and that would, we hope, legitimize the.
Right.
Okay,
It's possible that if you approve a project and it doesn't close, it could be subject to it or it could not be. It's the language in the statute a little sketchy. Typically, they exempt out projects that have been the subject of an inducement resolution, but I didn't see that language in the statute.
Hey,
Thank
hey,
you,
Jim, is the
Yeah.
project cost, just the construction cost they're talking about, is that correct?
I think so. You know, it captures any project that receives any kind of tax abatements, which obviously would include sales tax on, you know, possibly even equipment. But I presume what they're focused on is construction costs. Yeah.
we need to get that laid out, determined a little bit better. That it has been a fluid situation. But anyways, that's just a comment of what can happen next year. So this is where we are at this time. The project continues to be utilized in two ways. The Arnoffs would bring in other companies that need their services, utilize their buildings that way for them, as they mentioned a couple last week, and I know Mike and Craig could talk about that again. And then also they could lease the other building or part of the larger building to a company that would need that for their space themselves. Mike, you want to?
Yes, Dennis, thank you. And again, just to remind the board, thank you very much for your time today. But just to remind you, we are not, the Arnoffs are not looking at this from a real estate development perspective as non-operators. We look at this as continuing to develop our logistics campus and attract companies who want to work with us side by side and be a part of what almost becomes a communal environment where companies share in the services that we are the experts in providing. So yes, AMAT needs office space, but and you guys know them as an office tenant at Arnoff's site, but we provide crating services for them. We provide labor for them. We provide handling for them. We provide logistics services of all different shapes and sizes, from freight forwarding to local trucking to, you know, domestic trucking, courier services. So it's all part of, and I use them as an example because we all know who they are. And then there's many, many others. I think we talked a little bit confidentially about the Kawasaki project that we're very excited to get close to closing and bringing to Saratoga, but it's the same kind of a situation where we would be servicing 900 dealers in the Northeast from our facility in Malta, and providing all kinds of services to those dealers, whether it's a simple, you know, pack a warranted engine and put it in a box and send it to the dealer so that he can do the repair, or any kind of logistics services that those dealers may need, with which would require them being able to service the consumer. So I think, just in a nutshell, I just always want to remind you that we're not looking at this where, you know, we're sitting in some ivory tower in Chicago and we just want to develop the land. You know, we're there operating a environment that companies are coming to us and raising their hand and saying, help us, help us, help us.
I did talk with the planning board, the planning person, Jamie O'Neill in Malta, when they approved the road site improvements, the infrastructure improvements. Their expectation was that there would be about 175,000 square feet of building space available on the, left to be developed in the park. So they've already got a conceptual understanding of what's going to happen, and they're expecting a site plan review to go forward positively. Naturally, you have to go through the motions of what needs to be where, but
Sure.
she was very positive about the project from the town's perspective. And while I have not talked to the supervisor in the last month, the last time I had a conversation with Supervisor O'Connor, he was very positive about the project. Other than that, we're glad to ask, you can ask any questions. What can we help with?
Yes, how we left this last time, Dennis, was my impression was most of the board wanted to do something with this project, but the amount presented was a little high. Scott, Rod, and I had been trying to get together on this, and I did receive your spreadsheet. And what I attempted to do was go into it and work with some other values for a set value. However, none of the formulas were in your spreadsheet, so I could not do that.
Correct.
But I feel like we're still at the same point, and if you could help us out with that, that would be great.
Okay.
And
Sure.
then we could plug a number in for a starting value for the 5 and 5 program and come up with something that works for everyone.
Well, that's also in my my regular spreadsheet, which I understand what you're saying, Mike. The other thing I remembered you saying, it wasn't clear to me. I apologize because it wasn't clear to me that it was with regard to the size of the pilot. My understanding was you wanted to condense all of them into one. There was, which is fine. That was sort of a logistic issue. Talking with Jim and staff about doing that, and this one would be just to follow through. This would be a separate pilot handled. Jobs would be separate on this one. It was determined through conversation with staff that this would be the best way to do it, simplest way to do it, because it would then allow the Paris report to be the third project and have its own jobs and own value. So that's the thing I thought we were looking at, because I was not given a clear indication of what you thought that needed to be. I'd be more than happy to figure that out, because I do have those spreadsheets that are active. I would say this: I need to have some. What are you thinking? Is this do you want to do a 5-year? That's the type of thing that we're trying to get at. I can tell you now that with the application, let me pull that up if I may. There we go. Turn that sideways. So in this, in the addition, get this down. As you can see, when you add, let's go to if I could go to the second year where the second building is there, you see that the assessment, the full taxes paid would be an additional $310,000 roughly. That is due to the 5-year no payment on the improvements at all until year 6, and that's when it goes into 50%. And that number then drops, as you can see on the actual saving side, that drops by approximately half. If there's, is it the desire, what's the desire of the board, just to see it as a only a 5-year pilot, a 10-year that starts at 50%. You know, those numbers can be, you know, put around, but what is it that, what kind of idea can you throw out the numbers that I can then
Yeah,
adjust?
just speaking for myself, Dennis,
Sure.
I like a 10-year pilot at 50%. That's what I like. And any other board members can
Sure.
comment now or later.
Why are we looking for something different than we already have? I'm a little confused. Why, if it worked in the past, why wouldn't that work going forward?
Because it did work. That's the concept of this. It did work. You have a good facility going, and it just seems like coming back the third time is just kind of a lot. But don't get me wrong. We want to certainly be fair and, you know, make this work for you.
Okay. You know, but Mike, respectfully, we're doubling the size of the operation there. I mean, that's significant. You know, it's not like this is an addition to a building. We're not, you know, we've proven ourselves. We've gotten through the first, you know, coming up on 5 years, and now we're going in deep. This is a deep dive, where maybe before we put our leg in, and then we got up to the knee and we felt good, and then we sort of gradually, now we're diving in head first, and we're doubling the size of what is existing on the property today.
Mike, let me ask a question of that. If you were to receive the pilot, whether it be the 10-year, 5-year, the substantial, and Mike is correct, there's a substantial savings to your organization. Would you be passing some of that savings on to the tenant on the leases?
And Don and Craig, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in at any point. But no, this is, you know, more about, and I'd like them to jump in as well. But this is more about the development costs and trying to, you know, with the accelerated costs that we're seeing across the board, and then the numbers that we, you know, started looking at a year ago and what we're looking at today. You know, Don, Craig, do you want to add to Mr. Sutton's question?
I think if we were going to lease out to be quite honest with you, on the leasing side, if part of the building becomes a lease to a tenant, there'll be market rate leases. The biggest place where the savings in which the IDA and the county is going to provide us savings is going to go back into is payroll. All of that 2.3 million you see in that savings, we're going to dump directly back into growing our workforce, supplying them with high level of training, supplying them with the best benefits you can get around. We have people on our health plan who are provided health insurance for less than $6 a week. Arnoff carries the large end of that cost. And on top of that, higher wages so that we can continue to compete with the national firms that are in our region that are paying exorbitant amounts of money for entry-level labor, and continuing to grow our workforce in that way. And hopefully that then, you know, in the payroll taxes and in those payroll dollars, they're respending that money on products that have sales tax associated with them in the county. So the county is really going to be seeing a lot of that money back in its pocket by us growing our company and creating dollars of payroll with this development. I really see the savings you guys as providing us really as a pass-through for us to be able to grow our workforce at the higher dollar wages that we have to afford with the Targets, the ACEs of the world in our region now.
And how many jobs you're talking about, Craig?
Shoot back, I don't have that one open. I think we were talking about, you know, somewhere between 35 and 50 jobs over the period, right, Dennis, on that report?
Yes, that's correct. That's the conservative number at this point.
And the ancillary, I mean, there's ancillary jobs that go with the growth, you know, that
Well,
we have.
that's my point, is that you're going to bring in other jobs, and you're you're basically bringing in new jobs, which I think is great for the county. But I think the job creation, that's what we're looking at for the pilot program, the creation of more jobs. And if you're getting the brunt of the savings, would that be not be passed on to the tenant for at least the term of the pilot, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case might be? We've done this in the past, and we've asked other companies of the same question. That this is a substantial savings, $2.3 million. That's on the low end.
Well, Mr. Sutton, what we did with Ryder and to attract Ryder to come is that we gave them, so I think the answer is that yes, it will be passed on to attract companies to come to our campus. We did that with Ryder to attract them to come to Malta by giving them some reduced rental rates during the first, I think they're on a 15-year arrangement, but during the first 5 years, sort of to get their business off the ground and get their that particular branch operation up and running, and equipment costs that they had to, and relocation costs and stuff like that out of the way. So I think the answer is yes. I think Craig's saying we're going to have fair market rate rental leases, which is a great answer, and that's what we all want to hear. But I think we have been very, very creative with, we just signed a long-term renewal with AMAT to keep them in place rather than getting them to go back to Albany, where they have, they were trying to be attracted by a SUNY to fill empty space down at SUNY. And they have a pretty big operation that they're working down there, and they could have easily moved their administrative staff down there that we house, and then we would have potentially lost some of the logistics services possibly that we provide to them. So yes, we're going to get creative in any way that we can to attract national companies to come to our site, and having this benefit will be passed on to those companies in reduced rents, reduced services, reduced cost of services in that initial period to get them to sign long-term relationships with us.
Are your leases triple net that would, for instance, Ryder, are they responsible for portion share of real estate taxes on the building they're occupying?
Yeah, hi, Jim. I wanted to jump in, before. Certainly when you're looking at a monetary saving, whether we're saving 10 cents on the purchase of fuel, ultimately those savings will get passed on to customers, et cetera, because it reduces our costs. With regards to the real estate here, yes, we do, our leases are triple net. So again, there's a factor of the real estate taxes on the initiation of a lease.
Right.
And that real estate tax will grow as the lease grows.
Right. So that, I mean,
yes, they do get a portion of the savings, but it's all part of the entrepreneurial spirit to be able to, create activity, create jobs, move forward. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Don, just correct one thing. When we sell, and in the IDA's eyes, it may be a lease, and with AMAT it's a lease, with Ryder it's a lease. But when we sell a company like Kawasaki and coming in and taking a 30,000 square foot area in our new building, that's constituted in New York State as a storage service, and that's taxable, correct?
So
that has a sales tax component to it, where a triple net lease does not have a sales tax component to it. Is that correct, Don?
Yeah,
there's even a further benefit to the concept that we're bringing to the table, that we've continued to bring to the table, and that we've proven in the last 5 years to be very successful here on the table.
Correct. And to just elaborate on that. So if a customer rents space, or, as a storage contract.
Like CRE, what we're doing for CRE right now, Don.
Yep, that's a taxable service.
Right.
And it generates sales tax for the county and the state. If it's a lessee-lessor relationship, that is not subject to sales tax.
Right, so you do both, right?
Baylor, Bailey, Jim.
You have storage.
That's-
have
That's
storage-
primarily what Arnoff is doing. It's a
Right.
simple Baylor, Bailey relationship.
Right,
You know, and it's taxable.
right, but you also might end up just doing third-party leases as well with some of these entities, or no?
That's not our long-term goal. Our long-term
Right.
goal is to occupy these buildings with Arnoff staff members and convince the Kawasaki's of the world why they need us to provide that service. They don't want to employ, if they're a Nebraska-based company, they don't want to employ New York employees, right?
Right,
They don't want to have that commitment to bricks and mortar or a lease in New York State, right? They want to rely on us to provide that service, and that's what we want to continue to market.
right.
Will
So-
there be some leases involved? It's inevitable, using again, going back to the AMAT model, it's inevitable that will develop as our sales team attracts national companies to want to come to our campus.
Right, so I think the answer is that were you to do a lease, it would most likely be a triple net lease, and the tenant would get the benefit of the pilot. If it's not a lease, it's a storage contract as you described, and the benefits are flowing differently than they would under a lease. Yep, okay.
Jim, I'd like to add on to that for the benefit. You and I have been around Dennis long enough with going back to Ussolini in Malta with that building, going back to Marini's 3 projects in Half Moon. Those were all the questions that came up from the board to the applicant was direct. Are these benefits in that the benefits gained going to be passed on to the tenant?
Right,
And that was a requirement at that time. That wasn't.
right, that's true if you're looking at a traditional real estate development project, but what they're doing is sort of a hybrid. A lot of their arrangements are not leases, they're storage contracts,
And that-
so the benefits flow differently than they would under a traditional real estate lease.
No, that's correct. And that's why I brought it up, just so that we have it reflected that these are there are 2 different things going on here that sort of diverge from what we have done as past precedent.
Right, I mean, bottom line is that if you're relying on the jobs that those third-party entities might be bringing into the facility, the IDA expects that the benefits will somehow flow down to those entities.
And
And
then
it sounds like either instance, in your case, the answer is yes.
Yep, and we have to figure out how we report those jobs as not being Ussolini, I'm sorry, as Arnoff employees. versus-
Right, it's the same way you would do it with a real estate development project. If they're leasing to third parties and those jobs are being included, they would get reported. It's the obligation of the applicant to track down that employment information coming from those third parties and report it up to the IDA.
But outside of a lease agreement, Jim, they're not required to do that, right? They're just giving the jobs on their portion of labor in the facility, right?
No, I mean, if I think they mentioned earlier that, going forward, I think they would, I don't know if it's reflected in the application now, but I thought Mike mentioned that they should be including the job projections related to those third parties. So if they do that in the application,
Yeah.
and that forms part of the basis for whatever they're approved for.
Yeah, that's kind of I was getting to
Those
that.
should
Yep,
be reported, they would be reported going forward.
yep, okay,
It's just Arnoff's responsibility to do that.
yep.
Any other
Mike-
questions? So go ahead, Dennis.
Okay, thanks, Rod. I appreciate that. I was just, what Mike Mooney had asked me to do, or what he had said, can you put some numbers in? And just, if you went to a 10-year pilot at 50%, so 3.5 million would go on. The difference in savings, the 10 year as it's listed now, the savings is approximately $875,000. And in a warehouse pilot the other way, 50%, it's $675,000. So there's $200,000 difference between a 5 and 5 and a full 10 year, or a 5 and 5 and a 10 year. That's at 50% immediately. just so you can see the, I'd be glad to forward that to you. So we're, in that case, there's a $200,000 difference.
Why don't you send that to us, Dennis?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any, and board members, any other questions of the Arnoffs while we have them here? All right, Dennis, you're gonna send us over a revamp, some numbers, and we will continue this discussion. Are we ready to go to a public hearing in the July meeting? Are my members comfortable in going forward with that?
But we haven't accepted the application yet.
Excuse me.
The application is pretty fluid at this point. Right?
And today we would have to do something to accept it, so it's a record. Last month, we pulled it off. We did not have anything to accept and establish a public hearing.
Hey, Jim, maybe you can speak to that and see what we might be able to do to get a number locked down, but still get the public hearing scheduled.
Is that the issue that comes with it, Jim? That you have to have the pilot, you have to have a number for the pilot by that time, or for the public notice?
You're muted, Jim.
Sorry, before we publish,
Before we publish, we have to have that number.
right?
And the publication is 10 days before the public meeting, public hearing.
Right, has to be in 10 days. It usually takes us 3 to 5 to get it in the paper.
So,
you're looking at the end of June, you got to have this locked down, right?
Yeah, your meeting would be on the 13th, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's even a little bit earlier than the end of June.
So you're looking at either the 28th or 29th might be the drop dead date, right?
Right, I'm also not around on the 13th.
uh,
Well, we can move that if that's the case.
Are you taking a vacation? What the heck?
Yes,
Good for you.
Let me ask a question.
That'll definitely make a difference when the meeting's going to be, won't it? Yeah.
right. And if you did it on Monday, the 12th, I'm flying out in the afternoon, I could participate. It will be really hard for me on the 13th. Actually,
Okay,
no.
in
I'm
either
wrong.
case, why
I'm
don't
wrong.
we try to, put this to bed and whatever, by the end of the week or early next week?
Mhm.
So we have everything set and, yeah,
Dennis, why don't you get the revised numbers over to us?
Yes, sir.
Tom Lewis, Mike Mooney, myself, Scott, and hopefully Jim Carminucci, we will sit down, review everything. And then we will talk to our board and submit all the information to the balance of the board. And what does the July 20th do for us if we were to move the date one week, the public hearing? Anybody have a problem with that?
no,
No,
12th
That
or the
make-
20th is fine with me.
Why don't we plan on, do we have any much on the agenda that we know of at this point, Scott?
No, no, this would be the main one. And whatever, little grant stuff we might have, so that this would be the focus.
Okay. Why don't we set the date for our next meeting for July 20th? And we'll try to fast forward to have a public hearing for that meeting. We will get the information from Dennis, our subcommittee will meet, and we will then poll our members with the information that's been forwarded to us. And then we can make that decision. We'll have plenty of time then to do the advertising for the public hearing. And we'll try to set that for the July 20th. Does that work with you, Mike Arnoff? Does that work for you folks?
I'm sorry. Absolutely, that works for us.
Okay. Why don't we do that then? Any other questions of the Arnoffs while we have them?
No.
Okay, any other board members?
No, I'm good.
Mike, Craig, Don, thank you for your participation. You know, there's a lot of tough questions that we have to ask, but it's, you know, this is part of our due diligence to, and these are the obligations we have to the public. So
We understand that.
bear with us with this, okay?
Mr.
Thank
Sutton,
you.
we understand and we respect, and thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Chairman Sutton.
thank you. So. we
Hey,
set this- Go ahead,
Rod,
Mike.
do you want me to try to make a resolution on this?
To set a public hearing, Mike?
Yeah, to accept the application pending
Yeah,
a
okay.
revision in the amount and set the public hearing for July 20th.
It's fine. Motion, second to that motion.
Second.
Who was
Bill
the,
Fine.
That was
Any-
Phil.
thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
Please note my recusal of voting on the motion.
Okay,
Understand? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the motion is carried. We will then set the public hearing for July the 20th. Okay. Anything else come before our board this morning?
Mr. Chairman, I have one last thing. Mrs. Riley and myself will be going down to Washington DC the last week of the month for a couple things with our Irish folks, and we're also going to be meeting with our legislative folks. And I wanted to alert you that we are going to take down the rail study that was done, so we can actually have a conversation with them about that information. And make sure that what's available, you know, just showing them what's been done since the time we talked, and see if we can generate an understanding of what will be needed for that. So I just wanted to let you know that we were heading down there and going to have that discussion.
That's fine. Does the town of Monroe know that you're doing this?
Yes, I did talk to Supervisor Kuzniers on Friday. Before I wanted to talk to him before I talked to you. He said that was fine. He totally agreed with it and was just waiting to hear what came back from it.
Okay, fine. Good luck with that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? If not, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move. All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Free time, everyone. Thank you. Have a good
Thank you,
week.
folks. Have a good
Thanks,
week.
everybody. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Good day.
All right.